If you've been playing PvP, I'm pretty sure you've come across Solar 3.0's restoration healing meta. It's annoying. I think it's a little too strong in the Crucible, and I think that the correct word is excessive. It's excessive. Each season, there's usually something for PvP specifically that stands out. Void came and went. There was invisibility, there's Bastion, other things. They were tweaked for the Crucible, and I've been wondering if restoration and heal is being looked at. When you fully build into it, it's really strong. But even at base, you can get out of some situations that you really shouldn't. So my stance, I don't really like it. It's excessive. I want to play the game, and I'm going to try to counter it. In PvE, it's great. Heal restoration is a big part of the ever-changing game that is Destiny. So when we got Solar 3.0, new ways to play, things like this are expected. Restoration, you regenerate health and shields over time. It cannot be interrupted by taking damage, and then cure. You're healed in a burst of mending solar light. Now, I want to establish something. You can't blame the players that are using this combination. You can't. Anything goes in the Crucible. There's no gentleman's agreement. It's the Wild West. And when heavily built into, it's so strong. For some players, it becomes a, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And there are players of all types. Maybe someone needs that edge. Maybe they are a meta player, and each edge that comes up, flavor of the season that shows up, they use and they abuse. Maybe they aren't too good at the game, and without it, they would do even worse. So you can't be mad at the player. It's in the game, you can use it. I think it's excessive, but it is what it is. All characters can do it, like heavily building into it, like the healing grenade, with classy restoration, with the worm husk. You essentially have 3 lives. You can get into a duel, worm husk back, get the health from worm husk and classy restoration. Get into a duel, go back, throw a healing grenade, go back. You see what I mean? It's a little too much. And then with Titan just doesn't have to do anything. With a Lordly Splendor helm, they could just be walking, doing their own thing, take damage, drop a sunspot, and immediately restoration ×2. Then they have a healing grenade on top. They can throw up a barricade, they're in restoration. For something this strong, the trigger for it isn't too hard to do. Then the Warlock can do it too. While Heat Rises is active, you gain restoration while diving, and you scorch targets on landing. So they all can do it, and it's pretty wild that they all are doing it, because when I saw some of Solar 3.0, I'm like, sweet, we have more support coming to Destiny 2. And as far as class identity, it's kind of weird that the Warlock's kind of the worst at support with healing and all that. But to compare to Overwatch, you have tanks, you have DPS, you have support, you have these different things. And with the Solar 3.0 kit, you're pretty much all of them. DPS, tank, all of it. It's wild to me. So that kind of brings me to this video, countering it. And with countering it, it takes specific things, and those things are pretty specific. It means you're gonna have to do or use something that you wouldn't otherwise, and there's also a scenario where you can heavily build into restoration and heal while using some things to counter other players. Some of the things are basic, but they work, but as the list goes down, it gets more specific and the counter becomes a little bit more stronger. And with these counters, a lot of them are basic, but it's combating restoration and heal. And as you go down the list, things start grouping together and stacking a little bit. And there might be one player that you go against that's doing this, but if you go into trials, or maybe a full fire team in 6v6 and they're all doing this, all of this comes up. So number 5, burn, sustain damage. Self-explanatory, but there are some things that are better than others. When a player is doing restoration or the heal combo on top, sustained damage is key. And some of you are already doing this. Like burn could mean something like poison as well, so something like thorn. The deal with thorn though is it needs soul devourer. So you need to get a kill, pick up the soul. That way the burn tick does 7. That's when it's money. Because a regular 3-tap with the thorn and the little burn, on let's say a Lordly Splendor Titan, when they start healing up, it's not gonna get them. But if you have the perk, the 7 tick of poison is enough for the 3-tap. And then there's something like Monarch. At base, it's probably the best. And hey, Monarch has been a community-hated weapon in the Crucible for a while now. You're fighting fire with fire. It's big chunk damage with the little poison burn on top. Altogether, it is enough to stop those 2nd and 3rd peaks. It's enough to stop them in their tracks. And it's one of the few at base that will fight restoration. It does a really good job at keeping it in check so they don't do the steady healing. It's taking more than that's giving, and that's what you want. Then we have something like Wither Horde. Not too much to show, we all know what it does, but if you ever see, let's say, a Lordly Splendor Titan put up their barrier, make their life miserable, it's a hard counter. Or maybe you see some healing going on around a corner. You get some shots in, you see the burst of healing come outside the wall, Wither Horde it. Because if they step in that pool, it does anywhere from 20 to 40, 50 damage. It negates what they did. Then of course, Scorch. A lot of players are using that anyway, so when you take a Trip Mine, the Scorch applied after combats it. And if they throw a healing grenade on top, that means the full kit is gone, you can go from there. But there's a ton of grenades, a ton of melees that apply Scorch. There's also a fragment to apply more Scorch stacks. It all helps combat it. Like I said, these are simple, but you can pair it with other things. And like I said, if a full fire team is doing it, things like this add up. So next is another simple one, and you can make an entire loadout for it. Brute Force. Make it to where it doesn't even matter. And a lot of you already do that. But high damage weapons with high damage kill perks, like a Kill Clip Messenger, Harmony weapons, buff damage, or it goes all the way to the Radiant build, the 2-tap Ace of Spades, 99 per crit, Memento Mori. Your goal is to simply out-damage it from the start. Be ahead of it. We've always seen a lot of them, but things like fusions and snipers, of course, they're some of the best because it doesn't give that build a chance. And with that damage, like a Kill Clip, High Impact Pulse, 47 per crit, 141 damage for the burst, when they come back out of a heal, it doesn't matter. For me personally, I've been playing a lot like this. I've been playing and building into things that can just end it before it starts. Radiant, rifts, damage buffs, damage perks. It's necessary, like I said, especially if there's a lot doing it. And especially if you're underleveled in something like Trials. And with those weapons, it can be a team setting, like a couple Monarchs, a couple Forerunners. Fast, high damage enough to just shut it down before it starts. There's a lot that you can do, and it's one of the most effective things. And it's kind of lame because good weapons that can do well, a lot get edged out because of that extra health and added healing from restoration. It's making me put those down and build into others that can do more. So now at number 3, it gets a little more focused to specific weapons and types of weapons. The crit game. I played Trials games, regular 6v6 games where it's at a distance or even up close. There are rifts, healing nades, class abilities, heal, heal, heal. There are weapons that eventually break that, like Hawkmoon. You land enough crits, they heal, they get away, eventually you have the last laugh. And Hawkmoon is just great by itself. But I've had a ton of players survive a 3-tap. The stacks add up, eventually it goes to brute force. You stop it before it can be done again. Hawkmoon's great, and so is Focus Fury. And as I had the idea of this video, I played a stack team. I can't remember if it was 4, 5, or the full 6 stack, but they were together, lots of solar, lots of healing. One of the things I wanted to try was Focus Fury. It deals 20% more damage for 11 seconds after half the magazine was landed as criticals. I had my overflow Peace of Mind to test the setup, the theory, and I dunked on him. Ended up having a wee rant. It's fast, heavy damage, focused around crits, and I was rewarded. So any Focus Fury precision style weapon like a Scout, hand cannon, a Pulse can do well. There's symmetry, it does well. And then the last one's Malfeasance. Malfeasance simply does not care. It has 95 stability, so with double unflinching, tier 10 resilience, it's getting about 45-50% flinch resistance. It's a 180, it's getting a buff at the end of the month, it's gonna get better. All Malfeasance needs is 5 shots onto them. Could be all body, could be a mixture of head and body. And if they're healing and doing restoration, you're gonna be doing that anyway. I'm gonna repeat that. You're gonna be hitting 5 anyway. When you do, the perk goes off, they go down. You can do it at a distance. If you have a friend or two, they're running Malfeasance, those shots are shared. You land 2, they land 2, you land the 5th, it's over. All of these weapons have a theme. Malfeasance is a little bit of a standout. And as I stated in the brute force argument, there are weapons that you're using or could be using that sometimes they're just simply getting out healed. The damage that you're putting out is getting out healed. That's where these step in. And that's why you're seeing more and more of them. And at number 2, Disruption Break. Similar to Malfeasance, it does not care. They take 50% more kinetic damage for 4 seconds, and I showed you guys how that interacts in the Drang video. They can be full health, it's still gonna take them out. As an example, any 140 hand cannon will 2-tap them. If they're hit with this, they're in trouble. Things that they've been doing game after game after game won't work. So what weapons are there? The best, in my opinion, and I made a review on it, is Explosive Personality. First waveform with Disruption Break, and it's craftable. So since it's craftable, you get things like 100 blast radius, 100 velocity, 85 handling, 80 reload, enhanced autoloading, enhanced Disruption Break. So I get the shot a tad bit quicker with autoload, and Disruption Break lasts a tad longer. And there are other weapons, other specials, other primary ammo weapons, Ogma, Ikelos, SMG, Drang. And when they get hit, even if they do a full heal, they're vulnerable not only to your kinetic weapon, but your team's. I think Explosive Personality is the best. The wave is a massive chunk, 130 damage, and you can use anything in the kinetic. A sidearm, a 140 hand cannon, it does 70 to the body, and you can hip fire it. 200 damage, you can hit the head, hits over 100. A 120 RPM like this Loud Lullaby with Kill Clip, 75 to the body, 120 to the head. And that's kind of the same deal. This Loud Lullaby 2-taps. Fast, heavy damage to shut it down. You do that GL wave on the floor, do the cleanup, it's over. So things like Trials with the Capture Zone, 6v6, anything, this is there. And I play with a ton of weapons, so many that I don't really get to use a lot of my favorites. I'll be using Firefright with a new shotgun. I'll be using a new bow, whatever it is. I brought this thing out, first game was a 44 bomb, it is amazing. Disruption Break stops it. And if they're smart, they won't come back out of cover. And that gets us to number 1. Not playing PvP this season. Got him. And before that, but no, it's Shadebinder. Shadebinder's kit, just like it destroyed Void 3.0, it destroyed it. It does the same with Solar. The Shadebinder neutral game has everything that you need to stop it. You can run Eye, but I personally would go Osmiomancy, because with that, there are 4 ways to freeze an enemy. Most of the time 3, but there are times when it's 4. A Cold Snap, 2 of them, the ranged freeze melee, and the freeze rift. And to me, the kit got better. Even though there are changes coming to airborne effectiveness, the only way to dodge a cold snap is to leave the ground. Leaving the ground is at your advantage, especially if they have a shotgun or a special weapon. Their airborne is tanked. Even mid-range and they have a sidearm at hand cannon, it's still all in your favor because they have to jump. And even more if they didn't even build into AE at all. If there's any healing going on in the corner, the cold snap's gonna find them. They pop a barricade, the cold snap will drop in front of it, go over the barricade, behind it, down on the ground, freeze a Titan behind. In close quarters, when they're frozen, it's a melee final blow. And I've said it for about over a year. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it on the Firing Range podcast, that if you work with this subclass in the Crucible, there's nothing that it can't handle. With Void, the overshields, it shut it down. Invis, the cold snap doesn't care about invisibility. It will find them. The list goes on. Someone's rushing, freeze rift, freeze melee, whatever. There are multiple tools at your disposal that will stop everything in its tracks. Frost Pulse, and Ice Flare bolts. So if you haven't put too much time into the subclass, or haven't tried it versus Solar 3.0, try it. It can do it, and it does it well. I wanted to make this video because I genuinely want to help. And if it comes to it, teams are giving you trouble, think about these. All of them are counters. Some are really hard counters. Some involve you making slight changes to what you like to do, and some are asking you to make complete changes to what you're doing. It can be done, and a lot of players are forced into this type of meta to preserve that elo, that KD, or even just to stay above water. Each season, there are new ways to play. This one's no different. Arc 3.0 is right around the corner. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Solar 3.0, healing, restoration in the Crucible, your thoughts on that, and also any tips you'd like to pass along. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.